Yes, I think it's recording. Okay, so what we're doing today is solving equations with rational exponents. What does rational mean? Fraction. Okay, so just got to keep that in your mind. Rational means fraction. So we're solving equations. Okay, so really on the next page is where we need to look at it. Okay, so gotta wait. Okay, so we're trying to get just x equals a number on this one, right? So who do we need to get rid of? Yeah, that 4/3. That exponent of 4/3 needs to go away. How do we get rid of it? Any ideas? We're trying to get rid of the 4/3. Yes? How do we, Yeah, let's multiply it by its reciprocal. Okay? So if we multiply it by 3/4, okay, we take 4/3, multiply it by 3/4. You know, we always just say, hey, they cancel out. But really what's happening is if you multiply straight across the top like you're supposed to multiply fractions, and straight across the bottom, it turns into a 1. So that's going to be, that exponent is going to be x to the first power. Okay? So we have x equals, now, what we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So it's to the 3/4 power here. Okay? Now, you use your skills like you had yesterday. You change that 16 to the 3/4 power, you change it to a radical. So 16 to the 3/4. Do you remember how to do that? It's pretty easy. You just got to make sure you do it the right way instead of the backward way. Now, we've got to figure out what 16 to the 3rd power is and then the 4th root. So, come over here and on your calculator, multiply 16 times 16 times 16 because that's what that means. 16 times 16 times 16 on your calculator. What do you get? You get 4,096. Now we need to take the 4th root of that. We've got to figure out what number multiplied all out is 4,096. 4 times, and it's the same number. Well, I don't really know that. You know, that would take me having to play around on the calculator a little bit. So maybe that's not the best way to do it. So what we just tried is we tried doing the exponent first. You can try to do the root first and then the exponent. So what is the 4th? Don't even look at the 3. Okay, don't even look at that 3. What is the 4th root of 16? In other words, what times what times what times what is 16? There's a number, 2. Yeah, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So now we've taken the 4th root of 16, but then now we still have to do that exponent. Okay? So sometimes changing the order around is easier. 2 to the 3rd power is now 8. So we tried it. We're like, you know, in the way you would know, you would go, oh, 16 times 16 times 16, that's going to give me a huge number. I don't want to mess with that. So then you backtrack and you go, oh, let me try to take the 4th root of 16. Okay, and notice how I circled that. That's really helpful to circle that. Yes? Sure, you can. You can still do it. Okay, so x is 8. Okay, so let's do another one down here. Okay, so we are going to do what? We got to subtract 6 first. We got to kind of clean it up a little bit first. Okay, isolate. We use that word a lot when we're solving. Okay, now, how do we get rid of that 1/2? Notice this has parentheses. So that 3 and that x are kind of buddies right now. Okay, how do we get rid of that 1/2 power? An exponent of 2, like 2 over 1, right? We multiply by the reciprocal up here, multiply by the reciprocal over here. So what I do to this one side over here, on the left, I have to do to the right. So the 1/2 and the 2 now, they wash each other out because they cancel out and make a 1, an exponent of 1. And what's negative 6 times negative 6? 36. Now we just simply divide by 3, and x is 12. I like doing these for some reason. I don't know. I think they're fun. I think because it's a change of pace on those other ones, maybe. Maybe that's why. Okay, number 3. We need to get this to look like a rational exponent instead of a radical sign. Then if it's a radical exponent, then we can do the reciprocal and such. Okay, so we use our skills from yesterday. X minus 2 to the 3/2 equals 8. Now, how do we get rid of the 3/2? Multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so to the 2/3 power to the 2/3 power. So then we have x minus 2 equals 8 to the 2/3 power. Okay, so we can't move the 2 over yet. We need to work on this. So let's change that 8 back to a radical to the 2/3 power like that. Okay? Okay. Okay. And so now what do we do? So this one, okay, this particular one, okay, you can, so are you going to be in my 3rd period now? Okay. From what period? What? Okay. 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 So let's take a look at this one for a second. Okay. 8 squared is what? If I decide to do the squared first, I would get 64. And then some of you know the cube root of 64. Does anybody know it? Yeah, it's 4. The cube root is 4. Now over here on the board we have 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Okay, so we could have figured that one out by doing the squaring first. But let's look at it this way. Let's do the other way too. Okay, what's the cube root of 8? 2. Okay, so now we get 2 and then we square it because now we have to do the other part and we get 4. So I like these because you can pick which one you want to do first. You can square it first or you can do the cube root first. And sometimes you have to, if it's a big number, you definitely want to do the root first. Okay, so now we just bring down the x minus 2, we add 2, and we get 6, okay? Okay. Okay, so number 4. So what do you think we do first on number 4? Yeah, that 12 is a normal 12. 24 is a normal 24. We could probably divide. So now we have, and this little 5 right here, what is this little 5? Does it go with the 12? No, it's the root, the 5th root. Okay, I think some people in first period thought that 5 went with the 12. Okay, so 24 divided by 12 is 2. Now, let's change this. 3x minus 1 to the 1/5 equals 2. Okay, so then do it by the 5th power to get it to cancel out. Raise that to the 5th power. Okay, not 10. Be careful. What is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? 2 times 2, you can almost do it on your fingers. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Okay? So add 1, 3x equals 33, divide by 3, x is 11. Okay? Well, what do we do for number 5? How do we get rid of that 1/2? Multiply it by an exponent of 2. So multiply this by an exponent of 2. Now we have just a plain old x plus 12 equals x squared. And then we have, this is the first time on all these other problems in 1, 2, 3, and 4, we didn't have an x squared. But we have an x squared here. How many answers do you think we're going to get? We're going to get 2, because we're going to end up having to factor it. So when you have an x squared, you move everybody to one side. We've had that happen several times this year. Everybody to one side. I don't want to move the x squared over here, because then I'll get a negative x squared, and I just don't want to mess with that. So it's easier to me to move the other 2. Move the x and the 12. Okay? Okay, so now we factor, okay, what multiplies to negative 12, okay, what multiplies to negative 12 that adds to a negative 1, okay, 3 and 4, but it's a negative 12, it's a negative 1. Gabriel, did you get the worksheet when you came in? Okay, so what do we get? Yeah, a negative 4 and a positive 3. So x equals what? 4, and x equals negative 3. Okay, so when you have an x squared, you're going to get 2 answers. Okay, 2 answers. Go where? Huh? Okay, so you're just down there to get an ID? You forgot to do that? Okay, take it down there. Okay. Okay, number 6. What do you think we do first? Yeah, get rid of that 5. So we're going to add 5 over here. You might want to write a little bit smaller on this one because I almost ran out of room when I did it on my notes. Okay, 3x plus 13 to the 1/2 power equals x plus 5. Okay, how do we get rid of that 1/2? Yeah, multiply by the reciprocal, which would be a 2 over 1. We really just use a 2. Okay, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So I have to raise this to the exponent of 2 also. Okay, so on this side over here on the left, we get plain old 3x plus 13. And over here on the right, we get x plus 5 times x plus 5. Okay, so we're going to have to do FOIL on this. And if you remember this year, don't forget your 3x plus 13. If you remember, I've been working with you a little bit to do these easy FOIL problems in your head. They're easy because they don't have a number here or here in front of them. So that's right, x squared plus 10x. You add the 5 and the 5, but don't forget to make an x there. And then you multiply the 5 and the 5. Okay? Okay, so before we can factor it, we've got to move these over. We've got to move the 3x and the 13. Okay? Now, now we can factor this, and this is an easy one to factor. Everything's all nice and positive for us, so that makes it nicer to factor. So what multiplies to 12 that adds to 7? A positive 3 and a positive 4. So what would x be equal to? A negative 3 and a negative 4. Okay?